So I remember when I first met you, your wilderness was to feed your koi fish, and then do your ironing,
Yeah.
and do your housework.
Yes.
And then something happened. Maybe
Yes.
you want to share with us what thought came into your mind.
Every morning I would ask my wife, "Dear, where are you going today?" She said, "I think you need to go and look for something to do because every morning you're asking me, where am I going?" So it dawned upon me, I said, yeah, I better do something. So I pulled out my notes because I always sort of think ahead 10 years and I have a to-do list. So one of the things that I had put on there was bring Ben&Jerry's to Singapore because, studying in Boston, in the Northeast, Ben&Jerry's was very big there, being from Vermont. And so I had many, many happy memories of being a college student, enjoying ice cream on whether it's a wintry cold day or summer hot day. Both were very happy moments with your friends, So I called them up and long story short, at the end I won the rights to the franchise for Singapore. So I brought Ben&Jerry's here in 2005. And there's a lot of stories. Last year was 10 years of setting up Ben&Jerry's here. And one of the inspiring stories is about Ben&Jerry's and how they have built a company with a values-led mission.
That's wonderful. That's what I want to ask you because in US, all the companies have a company culture.
Yeah.
And you had that when you opened Ben&Jerry's because you are I saw the card, you are the happy owner.
Yeah.
And then your people are like the company has got the happy people, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So, and your staff all have something and the culture was very strong.
Yeah.
You'd like to share with us because maybe the young companies and the startups that are starting in Singapore would be able to embrace the kind of culture that you have.
Okay. What hit me really hard was the ice cream is awesome. We all love the ice cream. So what we really needed to do in the store was to ensure that we created a very joyous and happy environment. And really that means the scoopers had to really portray happiness. And to be happy, you cannot fake it.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. So I realized that I really had to build a culture that was based on happiness. And so what did it mean to be happy? So I actually studied very hard, very studiously, all various books, philosophies on happiness, including one I will, which the Dalai Lama was one that I'm a Catholic, but I took away much of what he said about happiness. And obviously we can have another video on this, but
I remember you keep saying about force for good.
The force for good, yeah. And his first book was about essentially what is the purpose of life. And obviously the purpose of life is to be happy. But then what does it mean to be happy, right? And so, buying something, retail therapy, buying a Prada bag or a Gucci bag, that's just superficial happiness, True happiness is when you give. When you give unconditionally, that kind of happiness is very deep, yeah. And he also taught about how being grateful. That means every day you wake up thinking about the things that you should be grateful for really helps you stay happy. And also when you don't compare, because you may have everything, but when you look at your neighbor and he has one extra car, one extra boat, one extra condo, right? Then what do you end up to? You end up with a basement of 12 Ferraris because it's never enough. The long story is I just sold Ben&Jerry's to a very...
So that's your next venture.
Yes, yeah.
And,
there's a reason. Yeah.
Chapter, right?
Next chapter.
Yes.
But so I may have sold Ben&Jerry's, the company, but Ben&Jerry's, the spirit, has not left me. And in fact, in this next phase from 50 to 60, while I'm doing, going back to my roots of technology investing and helping in startups, the other very important part is to amplify what I have learned in Ben&Jerry's. So you're not very far away, Elim, when you said the Happy People Academy. I want to take all the learning points that have been brought in and find a way, a platform to activate that. And I have a couple of things up my sleeve, so maybe if you interview me in a couple of years' time, Yeah, but obviously I'm here today because I think what you're doing is awesome. It's also about, spreading change, and in fact, the change must be for a reason, right?
So I believe you're calling. That's why you were sharing about you selling off Ben&Jerry
Yes.
because of this new calling, right?
Yeah.
So God got you down, the mountain, and now He puts you midway,
Yeah.
and then it's for you to come around again.
Yeah. 50 years old, trying to make the next 10 years purposeful, meaningful. So Silicon Valley, I've started to travel to Silicon Valley. It's very interesting when you express something like this, suddenly all the good men and women come. I've started making some small investments. I'm very excited by some of them. I'm trying to help everywhere I can because I went through Internet 1.0, so that was the beginning, right? And I talked about this. Now, as a technologist, as an entrepreneur, we can either use it neutrally, create a useful solution, or we could think harder and just like Ben&Jerry's, think how we could weave it in as a platform for doing good. Yeah, and I have quite a few ideas. Another day we can jia kopi and talk about it. But the message that I want to leave behind, and this is probably my next chapter, is as I invest in these technologies and platforms, I also want to help them find how their platform can be a force for good. Because as Ben&Jerry's had showed, doing good while doing well don't have to be isolated forces. Together, actually, it's much more powerful. In Singapore's next 50 years, the real challenge for us is the growing disparity between the have and the have-nots. In my time, even though we were quite financially poor, we still had opportunities that we could, through education, move up. But increasingly, that's going to become much harder. The odds are really stacked.
That's right.
Against you. So what do you do? So that is my question in my head. I have part of the answer that I have to test. But it's some of the things I've talked about, it's somewhere in there.
Well, I'm so excited because I would like to do a lot more things, especially for things that are socially good and the force for good. That word keep coming in my mind because that's why you are on here, this program, because we want to inspire all the change makers out there, people to rise up, this generation of young people to rise up, to be able to benefit from whether Internet 1.0, 2.0 and 3.0, and to be able to change the world for a better place, and all inspired to do good and to do well. Everyone out there, you heard from Toon, and that this is only the beginning of the 3.0, and this is going to be very exciting. And you are the young people out there, and you are the people out there that's going to create change for a better place. So for the future of next channel that we have, or the next show that we have, do check back with us, Ilim Chew TV.